Hello, everyone. My name is Gabe Smith, and today we are joined by, we will be joined by a couple of guests with the Community Ecology Institute, and we would like to have a discussion with some of these guests as they are leaders of some of our partnering organizations, and we would like to just ask them a couple of questions. First, our first guest here, hello, Praveen.
Hey, Gabe. Good to see you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You good.
Excellent. Awesome. So Praveen is the, I guess, Community Ecology Institute liaison of the Indian Origin Network of Howard County. And we have another guest who's also just joined our live stream, so I will add her. Hello, Erica. Can you hear us?
Now I can, yes. Hello.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Erica is the Equity for Howard County liaison, I guess, of the Community Ecology Institute, or one of the members of Equity for Howard County, who has been working with us at the farm, at Freetown Farm. And thank you both for joining us. And I will be asking you a couple of questions. I guess to start off with, I'll start with Praveen. Can you tell us a little bit about the group that you are representing on Freetown Farm and within the Community Ecology Institute, and who else is included in that group?
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, Gabe. But before I start, I want to say, Erica, it's so nice to see you. Erica is an awesome, awesome lady. She has been doing amazing work, much more than you can describe. And what she has done with Columbia Community Cares, that's right, yeah, it's just amazing. She has inspired so many people, and thank you, Erica. I just wanted to say thanks to Erica before we get started for the thing, but like, she's just amazing lady.
Thank you. That appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm part of Indian Origin Network of Howard County, our organization that was formed to help and support the Asian American Indians in Howard County, and then we grew on to do a lot more than that. So we work very closely with everybody in Howard County, and our goals have always been to empower everybody in Howard County socially, politically, intellectually, and professionally. And we just try to do whatever we can to make this place a better, make this county a better place to live for all of us. It's already a great county, but there's always stuff to be done, and that's been our goal. And we just came across, when I used to work with Chiara on quite a few things, and then when she started CEI, we were very excited to be part of CEI, and that has actually given us a lot of peace of mind doing the farming out there. So last year we grew a lot of tulsi, which is holy basil, and which is a very auspicious and a special thing from the Indian community. So we grew tulsi last year, and then we gave out to more than 500 people, and that was our interaction with CEI. And then we are very proud of what CEI is doing, and then the way we are collaborating with CEI.
Amazing. Thank you for that introduction. And I guess you alluded to this before, or you mentioned this, that you knew Chiara before involving Indian Origin Network of Howard County with CEI. So you guys already had a relationship before?
Right. I just knew her through a couple of other things, yes.
Awesome. So was that relationship the beginning of the relationship that would become Indian Origin Network and CEI? You were like the conduit of that?
Oh, no, CEI, Indian Origin Network of Howard County, was independent of Chiara. But I had met Chiara a couple of social events, and then she was still working on CEI at that time. And then when CEI was formed, we basically became part of it.
Awesome. Awesome. So thank you for that explanation. I didn't know that. So this is really, really cool to find out. And Erica, can you tell us a little bit about the group that you're representing, and who is in that group, and I guess what your overall objectives are?
Sure. Thank you again for having us. Today, I'm proud to represent Equity4HC. Equity4HC is the fiscal sponsor of Columbia Community Care. Our mission is simple. It's to address systemic inequities caused by exclusive ownership of and access to resources. And so we do a lot of work revolving around policy. We were really involved in Policy 1080 in the school system and making sure that it was implemented, first of all, created with fidelity and accountability, and then implemented with fidelity and accountability. And, the work of, Kiara, and at the time, there was another amazing woman who started Harvest Unite, Roxana, were working together to contribute to Columbia Community Care. And so there was a connection made with Kiara and the Freetown Farm through Columbia Community Care donations of produce. And it just seemed like a natural fit. I know that the executive director of Equity4HC, Daniel Burns, did a lot of work in terms of collaborating with Kiara, with Freetown Farm, and with making sure that we are all working towards a common goal. We know that we need to have ownership of resources, and that includes our food. And a lot of the work that Equity has been doing as well is part of the Horizon Foundation's Equity Collaborative, and several organizations within that collaborative all contributed to really developing what the idea of equity should be, what it looks like in the county, and how each organization should and can be dedicated to equity. One of the organizations that we developed a relationship with was the Howard County Chinese School. And with the Howard County Chinese School, Daniel and McKenna Burns, also another member of Equity4HC, pushed a program called Grow Together. And it was the Grow Together program, and we worked with the Howard County Chinese School to do grow boxes, and then had a really beautiful ceremony at the end. It was grow together to grow together, right? So really about intercultural understanding, really just cross-cultural, intercultural understanding, but also, making sure that we all are very clear about who in our community is. I'm starting to hear feedback. And a lot of the work that Equity has been doing as well. So,
yes, I'm not sure. Praveen, is that coming from your computer?
Yeah. Is it better now? Sorry, there was some echo going on here. So, yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
I can't hear anything now. Yes, I think it's better.
Awesome. So the Grow Together program was really about intercultural understanding through growing together, and the healing that comes from growing together, and the healing and moving towards a place of true equity and anti-racism in Howard County from various groups across the county. Right now, we're also working with the Jewish Federation of Howard County, and we're also involving youth across the county. And we're really looking forward to working with other groups in this Grow Together program. We're usually at Freetown Farm on Saturday mornings. And we're also going to be working towards one of our main pillars is healing, health and healing, and so we want to start integrating that as well into the community. So, looking at, again, addressing inequities, systemic inequities, and we know that in Howard County there is exclusive ownership, and there are folks that are left out and intentionally left out of ownership of resources and access to resources. And so our goal is to make sure that we address that.
Wow, that is incredible. I think I didn't realize how many, branches that Equity4HC had, and like how many collaborations that there were between Equity4HC and all of these different groups. I think it's amazing that you guys worked on the bill 1080. I also was involved passively with working with Jen Mallow this past summer and trying to suggest ideas to kind of strengthen that bill, and then analyzing different kind of analogous bills in other counties across the country to see if there was anything that was possibly missing from the bill that we could add to that. So I had no idea that Equity4HC was so deeply involved and interconnected with all these different organizations, and I think that is just amazing. And I'm really excited to hear more about that. So for each of you, I guess you kind of mention how you have gotten to the farm and kind of like what parts of your organization's mission have led you to the farm. But can you talk a little bit about like maybe what specifically your organizations are doing on the farm? Like maybe is there a garden or is there an activity that you're working on? Praveen, we'll start with you.
So we have a small garden at CEI, and we are basically involved in that garden. Last year we grew tulsi out there, and then we gave out to the members of the community. And our plan is to do something similar this year also.
Okay.
And we were helping a little bit with the what was that? The other the cafe. What was that cafe? I forgot the name. The one with the repairs one. So we have
the repair cafe. Yes.
Yeah. So we were there a little bit, but we would like to get more involved in that too. So
awesome. So do you think that? Well, you mentioned last year you were able to get a lot of the Tutsi. How do you Tutsi? I'm sorry, I haven't heard of that before, but you were allowed.
It's holy basil. It's called as holy basil.
A holy basil. Okay. I haven't heard, I guess, this other name for it, but you're you're able to get a lot of holy basil from the farm, and you were able to provide it to, I guess, members of the Indian Origin Network, but also like the community at large.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Anybody who wanted, we gave it out. I mean, it's religiously auspicious for the Indian community, but environmentally, tulsi produces more oxygen compared to other plants. So it's a good plant to have inside your house or around you.
Wow, that's really unique, and also, like mission aligned with us.
Absolutely.
I love that. And can you like tell us where on the farm that the garden was located?
So it was located right next to where the I don't know where, like I'm trying to figure out how to give you a direction out there, but once you get out, it's on your right hand side.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll have to, I guess, maybe a little bit later, like upload a map.
Yeah, they changed the whole thing right now. So I think this was last year's configuration where we had the big bench where people used to sit, so right next to that. So I think that's been redesigned now. So it's a little different now.
Yeah. So, I mean, for anyone who's watching, Freetown Farm is, always moving, always changing, always, evolving, which is one of the great things about it. But, you could have, come out last year or even a couple months ago, and things are going to look a little bit different today. But that, we will have to, kind of like progressively like put up updated maps of the farm to like locate where everything is, just so people know where they're going. Because sometimes I come there, I'm like, oh wait, this was here before and that was there, and that's there now. So okay, yes, thank you for that explanation. And
it's getting constantly better and better every day.
Always. That should be our tagline, evolving in the right direction. And Erica, can you tell us a little bit about the specific projects that Equity4HC is doing on the farm?
Sure. So we really follow the lead of farmer Erica Jones, who's the most amazing woman.
Love her.
Anything that Erica needs, and I'm like honored to share a name with her because she's just that great. Basically, whatever Erica tells us to do is what we do. And we've been doing different things each week. I personally have missed out on a couple Saturdays because of my other obligations, but I was able to be there in full force today. And it was just so amazing to be able to be surrounded by just people all across the farm, just kind of doing what needs to be done. And, I do believe that we're working towards having a plot. Again, with our Grow Together program, we were collaborating today with the Howard County Chinese School and the Jewish Federation and some of our youth, and making sure that our youth understand the importance of sustainable farming and growing your own food and healthy eating, and working towards healing and health in Howard County by, we want to work towards eliminating diabetes and eliminating all sorts of things. And eventually, making sure that our school system is full of healthy food and fresh vegetables, and that our young people have access to that. And our not just young people, but that our families have access to healthy food. We know that even in Howard County, there are food deserts, and there are communities that do not have access to, well-priced, healthy, organic vegetables. And so, we're super excited to be working at Freetown Farm and to be, hopefully growing our own food and being able to contribute to the community, making sure that everybody has access to healthy vegetables, and also to understand farming and the history of farming, and respecting the land, understanding what land we are on Freetown Farm, and the history of that land, and who and the ownership, right? And
Yes.
also recognizing, the indigenous roots of the land that we are on in Howard County. And I think that is also part of the spirit and the power of Freetown Farm. When you walk onto that land, it is ancestral. I used to live in Costa Rica, and there's a certain feeling you get when you're in nature there. I lived there for 5 years, and it's indescribable, the feeling I got when I was there, living there, at just the natural beauty. It just brings back this, religious or not, it brings back this incredible spirituality and like oneness with nature, and just recognizing the absolute beauty of the world. And I get that same feeling when I'm on the farm. It was weird. The first time I stepped onto it, I got that feeling back, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. But it's because the land is so important, and our families and our community need to understand the history of it too. So I appreciate that. That's part of, our purpose, our focus, is not just learning how to farm, understanding the health benefits from farming. That dirt, having your hands in the soil and your feet on the soil is healing, but also understanding the deep connection to our history and why that land is so important.
Yes, that was a beautiful response. And I also wanted to say that, kind of like piggybacking on what you were saying, at CEI and on Freetown Farm, we are really trying to be like an intersection of all of these things that you mentioned. Like, so we have an initiative, I guess, that will be unfolding later this year, to have a historical walking tour on the farm. So we would like to kind of like tell the community a little bit about our roots, the figurative roots and literal roots, and kind of like how they're intersecting. So there are plenty of different groups of people throughout history who have lived on the land, and we wanted to kind of just tell their stories with the information that we have. And then the stories of like the immediately surrounding community. So there are a couple neighbors that we have that have lived on Harriet Tubman Lane. Originally it was called something else, but they've lived on Harriet Tubman Lane for decades. I actually sat down with one couple there who by the last name of Kelly. There's a lot of Kelly relatives in the area, but one older couple, they had been living there since I think the 30s. So they had a lot of history of the area. They're in their, like, I think mid 90s now, early to mid 90s, but they had seen the land change and seen like the immediate area change. And we really want to kind of use their voices and also the voices of, historians and other people who have this information to really kind of accurately lay out that story so that people never miss that when they're coming to the farm. Like you're saying, Erica, it was like a spiritual experience. I think everybody kind of has that sensation when they get to the farm. There's something, that is predating Freetown Farm. There's something that's predating the previous owner and then the owner before that. So we really want to make sure that we convey that to the visitors of the farm. So thank you for saying that. And would you both mind kind of telling the viewers how they can get involved in your work on the farm and then outside of the farm? I'm going to talk about, and we can discuss that a little bit later, the work that you're doing outside the farm. But can you just kind of like tell us how can they get involved with your work and your initiatives on the farm? Praveen, can we start with you?
Sure. So you can send me an email at info@ionhoco.org. That's info@ionhoco.org. And
okay, I'm going to type that. I'm going to type that in the comment here. So info@ionhoco.org.
Okay. And then I can add you to the email list which we send out each time we have volunteers needed at the farm. Since we have a small plot, we typically try to be there once a week. And so sometimes it's more work than the other times, but yeah, that's a great place to start. And if you follow us on Facebook, you will be seeing posts on Facebook requesting volunteers on that particular day.
Awesome, thank you. And Erica, what can viewers do to get involved with Equity4HC on the farm?
So we have a website, equity4hc.org, and then also our email. You can sign up to be on our mailing list, where you'll receive all the information about our Grow Together program, other things, other initiatives that we are doing. And that is also info@equity4hc.org.
Okay, I will post that in the chat too.
Yes. And we can get you started and involved. We are also working towards, so Columbia Community Care obviously is still a project under the fiscal sponsorship of Equity4HC. We are always looking for volunteers through Columbia Community Care for both our Wednesdays and our Saturdays sites. And we have 3 sites: Long Reach Village Center, Oakland Mills Middle School, and Wild Lake Interfaith Center. So we're always looking for volunteers to help with that. We have it in shifts, so you can get a shift. And then also we have we've continued with our home delivery service. We still have so many people in need in Howard County who are really struggling. As we move hopefully out of this pandemic, with the same injustices and inequities that existed before the pandemic are even exacerbated more now. So if you wanted to, visit our website, columbiacare.live, or our Facebook page, Columbia Community Care, and go to the Files tab, and you can find out how to volunteer. We would love to have volunteers both with Equity4HC as well as Columbia Community Care. And then one of our ultimate goals, and just be on the lookout for information, is that we are working very hard to open a community center to kind of solidify our work and to expand on what we are already doing, because we do realize that we do have immediate needs, such as, the folks, starvation is an issue in Howard County, but we also know that we need to be addressing all the needs that we have as human beings, and that we are looking at human, our well-being is in a holistic way. And so our community center would be called Columbia Community Care Peace and Justice Center, and that it would focus on holistic healing, holistic wellness, education, mentorship and apprenticeship, health and healing, workforce development, and food and farming. And so we really have a vision for 4 pillars about how we want to move forward, or 4 main issues that we want to move forward with. And we have a larger plan in place, just in terms of looking at the community and who has access to ownership and who doesn't, and how we can change that. But all those things will be rolled out slowly. And so we also have a Facebook page, Columbia Community Care Peace and Justice Center, where, when we start rolling out more and more of our programming and more of our initiatives, you can find information there as well.
Okay, wow, you gave us a lot of links and points of contact. Would you mind sending that to me later on, so that when this video, so we're going to be recording this and then uploading it to our YouTube channel. I just want to make sure that all of this, what both of you are saying, is in the description of the video, so that if anyone is interested, they can check the description to contact you. That is amazing. It sounds like both Indian Origin Network and Equity4HC and Columbia Community Care are a force together and individually in Howard County. So I'm curious to know, I think you each might have alluded to this, but I'm curious to know what was the starting point of each of your groups, and how did, how did you arrive at the point that you are now well, I guess not necessarily at Freetown Farm, but with the work that you're doing now everywhere? Like how did it start, and how did you get to this point with you all becoming, or you all joining the group, and then maybe even predating you? Praveen, would you like to go first?
Again, I would just use all the things which Erica just said, because the underlying principles are the same that Erica and I stand for. I'm speaking for Erica, but you can correct me, Erica. We want equity for all. We want to make sure everybody has a voice. And we just want to make sure that everybody lives healthy in Howard County and everywhere. I mean, it's very unfortunate that it is much cheaper to buy junk food today than healthy food. Healthy food is much more easy to produce, but for some reason, it's so much more expensive. And that's why people tend to go for a lot of junk food. And that's one thing we've been trying to change. My thing has been our thing has been, the closer you are to nature, the healthier you are, both physically and mentally and spiritually. And that's the reason why we've been trying to promote backyard farming. And backyard farming was the start, and then we want to get into weekend farming, where we take it a little more seriously, and then people are working at least 1 or 2 days on a bigger land or plot, so they can grow all the food they want, and plus some more if they want to commercialize it. And we basically are trying to, that's just part of our farming effort. We're just basically trying to set up a pathway from a hobbyist gardener to backyard gardening to weekend gardening. And then if you want to get into actual farming as a profession, that's a great thing. It's a very sad thing that the number of farmers in the US has gone down drastically. And most of the average of the farmers in the US is over 60 years. So there's going to be a big shortage of farmers in the US very soon. And with shortage of farmers will come problems with food. I mean, I don't just see a reason why should we move a potato from halfway across the world to here when we can grow them right here. So that is our bigger picture, and obviously it's not as well laid out as we would like to, but that's our picture. I mean, that's what makes us happy there. And to go back to how Iron Hoko Indian Origin Network of Howard County started, same thing as what Erica had said. It's about making sure that the community had a voice which was heard. And that's where we started it, to bring the community together so that we have a voice. I mean, again, each community has a different set of issues and problems. And for some reason, we felt that Asian Indian people were not as involved as they should be, and were not as represented as they should be. And that was what started. But now then we have gone on to much more than just focusing on one community, and then it's all about Asian community, and it's all about everybody. It's about any community, not just any one single community. Anybody who doesn't have a voice need to make sure that they have a voice. I mean, we may not completely agree with them all the time, but at least we need to listen to them. Sometimes they might have a better idea than us, and sometimes they may not. But at least we got to listen to everybody, and that's been our goal. Is just make sure everybody has a voice, whether or not you agree with them. So that's my little spill here.
And Erica, can you tell us a little bit about Equity4HC and its origins and how you became involved?
Absolutely. So Equity4HC actually was founded by two educators, Anthony Bell and Daniel Burns. Anthony Bell currently works with me at Wild Lake High School and has been in the county for many, many years, and is an incredible educator, makes brilliant connections with our students, well loved by all of our students in Howard County, and is also a coach. And Daniel Burns is a former educator who won Teacher of the Year multiple times, who also made incredible connections and relationships with students. And so really the idea of Equity4HC was the founding of it was because those two educators and all of us now recognize the anti-Blackness and the anti-Black racism, particularly, but just the racism in general that permeates our school system. Our schools were never meant to teach Black and brown students from their inception, and now we are in a time where there are great inequities in Howard County schools. And across the nation. And we see that play out in various ways. We see our Black and brown students being hyper-criminalized and over-policed in schools. We see access to higher level classes as a huge obstacle for our particularly Black and brown students. We see over-suspensions and expulsions that are the disparities between white students and Black and brown students is drastic and unacceptable. We know that our curriculum is not responsive enough in terms of, teaching true history, connecting to our students, where our students can see themselves in the curriculum. We, the percentage of Black and brown and other, people of color educators is way too low, percentage wise. We know that nationwide and even in Howard County, around 85% of teachers are white women, and that's a problem. Because our students do not see themselves as leaders. They do not see themselves standing in front of them in classrooms. And so we need to change that. And so Equity for HC was founded because of those inequities and because of the realization that students, Black and brown students particularly, needed a voice and needed somewhere to go when they were being targeted. And so part of the purpose of Equity for HC originally was really focusing on policy work. And that's why Equity for HC was so involved in Policy 1080, which was required by the state to develop. But first time ever that there has been an equity policy in Howard County. And we want to make sure that it's not, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a piece of paper with no teeth, right? There's no point in having a policy if it doesn't do anything, just to say you have one. And we were determined to make sure that that was not the case, because there is a lot of harm that is done in our schools. We know that Howard County schools have great potential. We know that we have incredible educators that are doing their best every single day, but we do have problems. And part of that is by addressing them, first of all, recognizing them, and accepting that although Howard County Public Schools are maybe ranked, high in the nation, that there are extreme disparities and inequities that happen in our schools. And I see it every day as a teacher at Wild Lake. And so we need to address that. So that was, one of the original, that was the idea behind the founding of Equity for HC, to really be a place where parents and students could come to when they were having problems in schools and felt like they were targeted, their voices, to give voice to the voiceless, right? To the ones that are purposely silenced all the time. And a lot of the times in Howard County, one of the problems is that we talk about equity, but when it comes to equity of voice, the loudest and the richest and the those who have the ability to be at board meetings every single time there's a board meeting are the ones that are heard over a smaller number of voices that are not given priority or value or dignity. And so if you really want to address equity, right, in schools, where our policies need to revolve around making sure that those voices are heard, and that if there is harm done to even one population of students, then whatever that harm is needs to be removed. And so that's what equity would look like for real. And so that was kind of the foundation of Equity for HC. Columbia Community Care was founded because I had but the dedication to my students is really about building relationships with them. I make sure that I understand my students. I know my students. I know my community. We all know our community. All of us at Equity for HC know our community. We live here. And so I knew that my students and their families were going to be struggling to a very detrimental degree during COVID. And so Columbia Community Care was founded because we wanted to make sure that we were addressing the exacerbated needs of our community in terms of food. I don't like to say food insecurity. It's just starvation, to be honest. And in one of the richest counties in the world, I think that people don't realize how much poverty there is. It is if you look at the poverty line nationally and the poverty line in Howard County, there is a huge discrepancy there. It is what it takes to be living in poverty in Howard County is nothing near the national average. It's almost impossible to live here, even as a single person with no family. And so Columbia Community Care was founded out of that, and then it was just a natural fit to put Columbia Community Care under the fiscal sponsorship of Equity for HC, because the ideals, the values, and the mission really were in line. And so that's kind of the history of Equity for HC. And then we had the amazing opportunity to work to be under the Horizon Foundation's Equity Collaborative, and that's kind of where we have been able to build our networks, build relationships, get to know other community members, get to know other organizations. And Praveen, the Indian Origin Network did a really wonderful job of collaborating with Columbia Community Care in terms of providing the thousands and thousands of pounds of food that you did. So thank you to you and to your organization for that as well. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Thanks, Erika. We tried our best.
You did a great job.
So at its, I'm sorry, you can go ahead,
Nope.
Erika.
That's it.
I was going to say, at its core, it sounds like both of your organizations are dedicated to kind of amplifying the voices of the people that are generally overlooked or like have been overlooked. And I think that is extremely important. Erica, the points that you were kind of touching on with the equity challenges that we have in Howard County in the education system, I think that I remember kind of like suggesting some of these things to Jen Mallow when she was like working on drafting that bill. Like the teachers, the students seeing teachers that look like them and were coming from similar backgrounds as them, and along with a lot of the other points that you were mentioning, I think that also, Praveen, it's important, as you were saying, to kind of make farming more accessible to everyone and not just like the select group of people. It's interesting to me how, Praveen, you were saying like the number of farmers is going down. I mean, the average age of the farmers is now 60. So like in a couple of generations or a couple of decades, really, not even like maybe a whole generation, we're kind of going to be without that expertise and knowledge. And I think that it's important to kind of educate individuals in our community on how these basic fundamental principles of farming and gardening, so that we don't have to depend on this like small group of people that, you know, might not even live near us, that we can't really even communicate with them properly because they're not in our communities. So if we're going to provide for our communities, I think that it's important that people in our communities who care about us and know us are equipped with the knowledge to kind of allow us to thrive.
So if I could go on a slightly tangent out here.
Sure.
So I've been talking to a lot of farmers, and I've been talking to a lot of people who have got big pieces of land, not like hundreds of acres, but like a big piece of land. And I talk to them and saying, why are you not growing more? Why are you not using more of your space that's available to grow food? And the answer I get is like, we don't have a way to sell it. You know, 1 acre of land can produce about 20,000 pounds of food. You know, a given family might need about 1,000 pounds of food a year. You know, assuming you have all the spread and all, you're going to use about 1,000 pounds of food. And the question is like, okay, I have an acre of land. What do I do with the other 19,000 pounds of food? The farmers market that we have is, I wouldn't say very erratic, but it's not very routine. I mean, there's only like you have farmers market once a week and only during the summer months. And that becomes a problem on what do you do with the extra produce. There's only so much I can eat and there's only so much I can give out, and I'm not able to sell it. So one thing which we've been trying to do is propose for a permanent farmers market. A permanent farmers market is where anybody who grows food in Howard County can come and sell the stuff out there. Just bring your stuff and sell there. And the hope is that if there are 100 people growing in their backyard, there will be somebody out there selling every single day. So for the users, from the buyer's perspective, they come to one place and they find healthy, local grown food out there every single day. And for the people who are growing, they have an avenue to sell out. Not everybody is trying to make money out of this, but again, we don't want to put in all the effort and then just throw 90% of our food away because we just can't give it to anybody.
Right.
And the way it grows, like, I might have like 2,000 pounds of bell peppers in a week. Yeah, because that's how things grow, and they all grow at the same time. So, and that becomes a problem. Okay, what do I do with 2,000 pounds of bell pepper? And so that's something we've been trying to advocate. And I just wanted to use this forum to kind of bring out that point again, saying, let's move towards the permanent farmers market. It's not very expensive. It doesn't take too much of effort. You just have to make sure that people who grow in Howard County just kind of have a place to sell it. So,
is this an idea that you created yourself, or is this a concept that is in practice in other parts of the country or the world?
Actually, I haven't seen this in other parts of the country. I haven't seen this anywhere, but this is something which we need to. This all came out through the pandemic where the food supply broke down. Now things are much better, but if you go back a year ago, like let's go back to last June when Erica just started the Columbia Community, people were so scared to go into the grocery store.
Yeah.
People were like standing outside the grocery store and not going in, and the things were, and people didn't just have food. And the whole supply system broke down. And that was part of the thing was because food was being trucked from different places. on an average, food travels 1,400 miles before it gets onto your plate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to a grocery store, things are coming from California, things are coming from Mexico, things are coming from somewhere else. On an average, they have traveled 1,400 miles before they come to your plate. And when the pandemic started, the whole thing had broken down. And so we basically wanted to go more local as much as possible. And the more local you go, the healthier the food is, and less chemicals you're using, less fertilizers you're using. It's just more healthy.
Yeah, and it's supporting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And again, in people who are doing the farming, it's good from the mental health perspective. Anybody who's done gardening, forget how much produce you get. Just the fact that you are doing 20 minutes of gardening is so relaxing. It's mentally relaxing. It's physically gets you some activities. So we are trying to get towards a more healthy lifestyle. And as Erica said, diabetes is something which is growing a lot. Basically because junk food is so much more easy, and sedentary lifestyle is becoming much more common. And so all those things came down to just trying to make sure that there is a place for people to sell the food. I mean, there is millions of food coming in from outside Howard County. So if we have this one little place, which we call as the permanent farmers market, anybody who wants fresh food can go there to buy. Anybody who wants to sell their backyard produce can go there and set up shop. So
yes,
it's just my 2 cents.
No, that is an incredible. I think that's an incredible idea, and I think that there's an opportunity there to really strengthen the local economy and the people that are living here. Because I mean, I'm sure as both of you have seen, we're getting a lot of kind of businesses coming from the outside and setting up shop in Howard County. And who knows? I mean, the money is obviously part of it. I'm sure is staying here, but who knows where else the money, the profit from those businesses is going. So I think that that's a wonderful idea. And I think that is something that we'll have to propose to, maybe Howard County, the government in general, or try to just like further that initiative ourselves as CEI and Indian Origin Network and Equity4HC. And because I feel like there's unlimited potential in that and unlimited positive impact with that. And I really...
And Erica is so popular these days. If Erica says it, it'll happen tomorrow morning. Erica has got a lot of power these days.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy for her.
Thank you. I wish that was actually true, but oh wow, thank you. But no,
I'm just trying.
No, I appreciate that. One of the things that I want to mention also is that we put this label on students as farm kids, right? Free and reduced meals. And we want to flip that narrative and really have our young people learning how to grow their own food and be able to profit off of producing their own food. And not only that, but being able to take their food home with them and flip the meaning of what farm is. No student in our county should be starting this. I mean, it is, I always say with Columbia Community Care, we even came up on our 1-year quote anniversary. And to me, I didn't want to celebrate. It's not a celebration, right? It was a recognition and an acknowledgement that a year had passed since we started. But I was very careful to say that it was not a celebration because we should not have to have Columbia Community Care. And there should be no student that is labeled as a farm kid. And we use that term as like a literal label, like, oh, they're farm kids.
Yes.
No, like we need to flip that, and we need to, have our young people who are affected most by oppression and by poverty and starvation to be able to profit off of their own production of food if they want, and to be able to learn how to grow their own food and how to be able to take that with them home and create delicious and healthy meals and cut those, again, the diabetes in Howard County is rampant. I mean, everywhere, but we can really address so many problems through just, and again, Praveen, you mentioned the mental health part of that, just the growing and the feeling of the earth in your hands, and if it weren't for the bugs, I think I'd be much more into it. But the cicadas were a little rough this morning.
It's a little bit much.
A little bit much of the cicadas. But really, it is incredibly healing, and you just, this connection, and then to be able to take what you've grown and put it onto a plate and eat it. And it's just the whole mind, body, spirit, earth connection is so beautiful. And I wanted to mention that because we want our young people involved in this. And we want them to not see themselves as a label of farm, but flip that and say, yeah, I'm a farm kid because I know how to farm and I know how to grow my own things and I'm making a profit off of it and I'm building my workforce development skills and I'm becoming an entrepreneur and I can cook healthy meals for my family and take home the profit of my labor. That is something that I think is really important as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I love that point. Empowering kids through farming and not necessarily, stigmatizing them with that label, because definitely I heard that, that label being thrown around to describe a group of children, really. And it was never, used in a positive way from what I've heard. We have a question from one of our viewers here. Jeanette is asking, or Jeanette's comment says, love seeing local organizations coming together to lift up the community. What is the biggest challenge that your organization is facing today? And are you getting the support from the community that you need to overcome those challenges? That is a wonderful question, Jeanette. Thank you for asking that. Praveen, can you respond to that? What are the challenges that Indian Orchard Network is facing? And also, I just wanted to, throw out there that please feel free to talk about what each of your organizations is doing outside of CEI and off the farm. I think the viewers would be interested in learning about that too. So could you tell us a little bit about those challenges on or off of the farm, and if you're getting the support from the community to overcome them?
Well, as Erica said, I would be happy if Indian Origin Network of Howard County does not need to exist anymore, because everybody has a voice, because everybody is living healthy, because everybody is happy. We formed this organization for a reason, and it's an ongoing thing. I mean, diversity inclusion is an ongoing thing. It's been there for a long, long time. I'm glad with the support we're getting, and I'm glad with the people getting more involved and people trying to appreciate the other perspective and other people, and people giving a chance for others to talk and make their point. But there's still a long way to go. I'm not sure how we will get there, but we're making incremental progress out there at this point, and there's still a lot more to go. I don't know what else to say on that one.
Okay, Erica, could you tell us a little bit about the challenges that Equity4HC is facing?
Sure. There's a lot of challenges. Anytime you're doing anti-racist work, there's challenge. There is, it's even, I think, more difficult in Howard County because there's this veil of utopianism that we know those of us who recognize it know that although this county is wonderful and unique and has so much to offer, not every community member can access what Howard County has to offer. And so our challenges are, again, racism, systemic injustice. We have financial hardships. The nonprofit industrial complex is as saturated with injustice and racism as our society as a whole. So when we're trying to access grants, when we're trying to access funding, that's always difficult. We always are in need of funding. The work we need to do and the work we know how to do takes money, it takes investment, it takes time, and it takes community support. I think that we have definitely felt the community come together in a time of crisis. Columbia Community Care was, I felt like the community just kind of hugged each other and came together when you couldn't deny anymore, right? When you see miles long lines of people waiting for food, you realize, wow, our county does have problems. So, we always, the obstacles are just the tough conversations and the action. We need action. We need people to move on what they say. We need to first recognize that Howard County is not a utopia. That there's so much racism in our own county. There is access to ownership for those communities that have been traditionally excluded intentionally and even unintentionally, right? The Rouse vision was one that was of its day, unique and amazing, but it did not address or didn't foresee addressing issues of ownership. And who owns the resources, and what kind of water are we drinking, and who owns the water sources, and who owns the energy, and who owns everything. And so, you know, even home ownership in Howard County, who is owning homes and who is not? We know that I think my math is pretty on point here, but we know that about 64% of white residents in Howard County own their homes, and only about 18% of Black residents own their homes. And that is because of the obstacles to home ownership. So many deep, I mean, that go back to generate. We have generational wealth gaps. We know that this country was built off slave labor, or labor of enslaved peoples. I don't like the word slave, right? But labor of enslaved peoples who have never benefited at all from the building of this country that they did for free, forcefully. And so, you know, we need reparations of sorts. So there's, I mean, I'm going off on a tangent, but that's always important to talk about, because we continuously see wealth gaps that are generational in nature, access to ownership, access to resources. And those are all of the obstacles that we're trying to overcome as an organization, but as a community as well. And those of us who know how to address these issues, we know what to do. We just need to have the finance, the money, and the resources and the investment to do so. I think that we have received a lot of support from individual community members, very generous people, very generous organizations. We have received some grants, but we are always in need of more. I think that there needs to be, one of the things that I think is most important to understand is that it is a beautiful thing when communities can come together, when different cultural backgrounds can come together to work towards a common purpose and a common goal of real equity and fighting against injustice and working for true liberation. But I will say that there needs to be a particular recognition and acknowledgement of global anti-Blackness specifically that permeates all cultures across the world and all communities across the world. And until we have that recognition, we cannot move forward in a harmonic way until we address the particular anti-Black racism that permeates our world and in Howard County. And that is a huge obstacle that I think we need to talk about. And I know it's a tough topic to talk about, but it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, and I think that we, as a society and as a world, can't move forward. We can only go so far without fully acknowledging the marginalization that we've done to the people at the furthest part of the margins, or the furthest margin. So I think that everything that you're saying is absolutely true. And I'm wondering, or I guess to kind of sum it up for the viewers, the challenges that I think all of our organizations are facing is that we need the contributions from people in terms of money, time, and energy, and, you know, access to their networks and their influence, their own influence, for us to achieve all of our shared missions and objectives. So for anyone who's watching, if you have, you know, time or money or skills to give to any of our organizations, and if you feel that you would like to empower us and empower yourself in your community, then please feel free to contribute. And please, you know, not just feel free, but please, if you would like, you know, a better world and a better community, please do your best in contributing to all of our missions and, you know, the work that we're doing, because it's only going to, we're only all going to be elevated if the people, like I said, who are most marginalized are elevated. So I think we're just about to kind of like hit our limit for the conversation, hit our end. So I just wanted to ask if there was anything else that you all would like to share with the viewers or with each other. I really like the interactions that you guys have been having with each other. I think that it warms my heart to know that not only do you know each other, but have a good relationship, and your groups, your respective groups are, you know, collaborating too. So if you would like to share anything else before we wrap this up, please feel free to do that now.
So I want to send a message out to all the rich friends of Gabe Smith. All the ultra-rich friends of Gabe Smith, let's say. One thing we've been trying to do is trying to come to a situation where we can live off the land and live off the grid. So that means basically we have a plot of land where we are able to grow everything that we need. And we are growing it using the resources, naturally available resources, like we do a water catchment area, we do water barrels, we do solar energy. That's something which we've been trying to get to live off the land and off the grid, because I think that helps reduce the pollution that's going on. That will lead to a healthier lifestyle for everybody and lead to decreasing in dependence on foreign nationals and a whole bunch of stuff that happens from there. So anybody rich person out there, Gabe Smith's rich friends, if you got 5 acres of land in Howard County, I would like to hear from you.
Yes, and I would also like to hear from you, whoever you are. Erica, would you like to? Yeah, would you like to say anything, Erica, as we're wrapping up?
I'd just like to say thank you to all of our community members who have been working so hard to care for one another. I always say that if one person is suffering, we all are suffering. And so we can't allow that, right? And I also think that we need to really focus on, community care. The piece of community care of Columbia Community Care was intentional, because we need to take care of one another. And that doesn't, and as Praveen said earlier, that doesn't mean we're always going to agree on things, but I think that we really need to start self-reflecting on how we are contributing to some of the things that we may speak out against. Like, how do we as individuals, and how does our family and the way that we move through this world and the way that we live contribute to white supremacy, or contribute to systemic racism. And we might not even be aware of the fact that the way that we move through the world, or the things that we do, contribute. And so first is a recognition, an inner recognition of the work that you need to do to decolonize your own mind, and be aware of your how you move through this world, and how you live, and how that may affect other people. And then really just listen to those whose voices are always silenced. Take a step back and really, get past fragility, and listen to the voices, especially our young people. Our young people are so brilliant. I am inspired. Every day I want to quit everything. I'm like, oh, I just want to quit. Like, a student or a young person will just rejuvenate me with a simple text, or just anything. And I follow, I get all of my inspiration from the young people in Howard County and the globe. Just, I think we forget, or we doubt, or we don't realize or think about how incredibly powerful our young folks are. They are leading us, and we need to follow them. If they are saying something, listen. They know what they're talking about. They know how their own experiences are, within a larger context of problems, and they have solutions, and they're brilliant and inventive and inspiring. And so listen to our young people and invite them in. Don't talk about youth without involving youth, right? Like, we have so many people that have these conversations about young people and never invite a young person into the conversation. And so, I think, again, just if you are wanting to support, there's plenty of opportunity to do so. We're always looking for help. We're always looking for support, but follow our youth first and foremost. And I think we can really address some of the issues that we have here in Howard County in a really positive way.
Absolutely. So Erica and Praveen, thank you so much for being part of this discussion. And thank you to the viewers who are watching, who took the time out to listen and engage with us. Hopefully these can be continuing conversations. And if you would like any more information about Equity4HC or Indian Origin Network of Howard County, please feel free to reach out to either Erica, Praveen, or Community Ecology Institute, and we will provide those resources for you and direct you to where you need to go. So again, thank you both so much for being here, and to everyone, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Bye-bye.